All right, welcome back to our weekend edition going on right now because the man you've been waiting for, he calls himself the General. I said you call yourself Dr. Miguna. Do you still call yourself General, by the way?
I'm the only five-star general in the Republic of Kenya.
Someone would ask General for which army?
General for
You disbanded NRM or
No, I didn't. Raila did.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay. So yesterday you arrived back in the country, and it's been a long journey. I wonder how you feel this evening.
Yesterday, as I said, it is exhilarating. It's quite refreshing, and I'm still taking it in. Yeah, I'm very happy.
4.5 years, you have calculated it actually down to the day, 1,700 and something days. Summarize for us how that has been, the last 4.5 years or so.
It's very difficult to come up with appropriate adjectives to describe what I can only call a dreadful, nightmarish, disastrous experience. A very base, beastly, inhumane conduct by those who have a duty, a positive duty, to protect my rights, your rights, everyone's rights. They have a duty. It's not just a responsibility, and it's not just an expectation. They took a Bible or a Quran or a religious book or whatever. They took an oath and swore to uphold the rule of law, to obey and not to subvert the Constitution. They took an oath to protect the dignity and the human rights of all Kenyans without exception. They said, and it is in the Constitution, that torture is prohibited. There is no exception. Yet, and of course, they said, took an oath not to disobey court orders. They did exactly the opposite. So for the almost 5 years that I've been locked out of my own country of birth, where distortions, manufactured stories, propaganda, and blatant lies were told by the head of state, the Minister of Interior, cabinet secretaries, permanent or principal secretaries, and very many senior officials of the state. And just let me finish. Not just that, they were then corrected by not one judge, not two judges, not three judges, not four judges. They were corrected more than 17 times by both the High Court judges and the Court of Appeal. They were told, you are wrong. Miguna is a citizen. Miguna never lost his citizenship. It was wrong to go bomb his house. It was wrong to abduct him.
And I will get to that.
All these things.
I'll get to that because I know you have taken some action, including court action in Canada, and we'll discuss that. But I wanted to find out how this happened. Is it a formal request you made to the current government, or were they simply obeying the court orders? Because we saw you tweet a little bit about the red alerts being lifted and so on. How did it happen?
How did what happen?
You coming back home. I mean, there were red alerts that were there. Did you formally request for them to be lifted, or they were just...
So Joe, if I can remind you that I did not leave Kenya. I think people try conveniently to forget that I was sleeping just like you normally do in your house, like you will do today, soundly in my house on the 2nd of February, 2018. When the Blue opened my doors with the bombs and took me and never released me and never gave me access to anybody until they forced me out of the country.
I remember that.
So the point is this. When a new administration comes in with all the litany of court orders that have been defied, disobeyed, and the subversion of the Constitution and the rule of rights, and with their commitment that they will do something different, it was a duty, just like a duty on Uhuru Kenyatta.
So did they just do it, or you asked them to do it?
No,
That's
no,
what
just
I'm
wait.
asking.
Yeah, it was a duty for them to do so. So no, I did not ask them to do so. They felt that it was their duty to do so, because I remember there was an interview the president did with a reporter in, was it New York or Washington, D.C.?
With VOA, yes.
Right. It was, yeah, the VOA. And he asked, so what would you do with this case? And he said, I would order that he be returned immediately. The only thing is that they didn't buy my air ticket. They ought to have. All right? But yes, he did not lift the red alerts the same day that he said he would right away. He lifted them last week. But the passport was issued almost immediately. It was maybe 1 or 2 weeks later, but it was almost immediately. And for those who had doubts, just for the sake of them, I carried it. This is a passport. And no, I did not apply for it. I did not fill a form. I did not submit any application. So the only thing they asked me to do is to send them a picture, which I did. 2 minutes after I sent them the picture, this thing was printed. 2 minutes, literally. 2 minutes later, I was sent a copy of the passport, and 3 days later, I received
here
it.
Tonight, do you feel beholden to this government for doing that?
I would never be beholden to anybody for obeying a court order and for upholding the Constitution and for acting in accordance with the dictates of the rule of law.
Now you've
and you know me. Yes. I don't feel beholden to anyone.
And we'll discuss
even if
that.
you buy me lunch today.
We'll discuss that, because
Yes.
it's been a subject of discussion in the country in the last few days, given some positions you've taken. But you took this matter to the highest court in Canada. You were suing the former Interior Minister, I don't know his former, you'll tell me the legal position, Fred Matiang'i and Karanja Kibishu, together with the two companies. For I think $15 million, if I saw it correctly.
It's more.
Are you still pursuing that in Canada, or do you want it to come back now that there's a new administration? How is that going?
No,
Where is it?
But I think you're mixing things up. When you say in this matter, what matter? Because you know there are so many matters.
Okay, there's a statement of claim that you made in Canada.
I'm a very clear person when I talk about these things. So number one, there is the issue of torture, abduction, all these other things, all right? And which went through the judicial process and was determined by Justice Chacha and was purportedly appealed to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal threw it out. That settled in the sense that there is a final court order, and I'm simply waiting for the check or the checks, because they have not paid, okay? They have not paid for the destruction of my house. They have not paid for abducting me. They have not paid anything that was ordered. So I want my money, which I am entitled to. Then there are other cases that I commenced, including the malicious prosecution, because you know they took me to court with charges that could not stand up. When they went to Kajiado, they charged me in an incompetent court, and the magistrate said, go to Nairobi. When they were supposed to take me to Nairobi, they abducted me, destroyed my passport, and took me out of the country. That case is still going on. Then there were cases about the red alerts, all right? Now, the one in Canada is a different case. And it was brought precisely because, number one, these gentlemen, they were all men, made themselves unavailable to be brought to account. Because if you go to court and you get a court order and it is not obeyed, where do you go? You understand? So that's number one. Number two, they had defamed me. You know, they continuously said, oh, Miguna is a Canadian, he's not a Kenyan, with no proof. As I said, I was born in Kenya. I have a birth certificate. I have a national ID card. I have a passport. I went to schools in Kenya. I never renounced my citizenship. That was in no doubt. And when they went to court, the judge simply said, show me the proof that he's not a Kenyan. They couldn't produce it. All right? That's number one. That's defamatory. Then they said, I renounce my Kenyan citizenship. Completely false, because I never did. And by the way, Canada does not require renunciation. Even if you have citizenship of 100 countries. Okay? So that did not happen.
But wasn't the argument that the Kenyan constitution of the time required that?
No, but they're not the ones to interpret the constitution. The courts do. And the court said you're wrong. So you see, here is Matiang'i, a pedestrian on the street, coming to tell us that a judge of the Court of Appeal, 3 judges of the Court of Appeal, who have told them they are wrong. So
where is the case in Canada right now?
So the case in Canada was filed, and they have not defended. So they are purporting now to have hired 2 law firms to bring a motion that they were state officers, and therefore the Canadian courts have no jurisdiction over them. That motion has not been argued, has not been filed, but they have threatened it. And my response is very simple. Number one, these people acted outside the law. The Republic of Kenya did not tell them to do anything because they were supposed to act within the law pursuant to the Constitution. What they did was outside the Constitution. Okay, they subverted the Constitution. Number 2, they subverted the rule of law. Number 3, they disobeyed court orders. Number 4, there was no formal instruction or directive, unless they can produce one, that told them to do all these things against me. So if they want to say they did it on behalf of the Republic, they have to say, where did the Republic or when did the Republic give them permission to do so? 2, there is no immunity against torture. It's in the Constitution. So if somebody sues you for torture, you cannot say I'm immune. Number 3, you took yourself outside the jurisdiction of the courts in Kenya by disobeying all the court orders, more than 17 of them. And the last one, defamation can be tried anywhere, in the sense that when they say Miguna is this or that, when they say I'm a criminal, or when they say, for example, that I'm a terrorist, which they did several times, when they go and hire 2 foreign companies to blacklist me internationally, so that I cannot travel to some countries and I cannot transact electronically using Amazon, using PayPal, using many banking instruments. That is something that attacks me in Canada. That is something that they did using a Canadian company and a company operating in Canada. That is something that they did against an individual who they had forced to live in Canada through exile. So the Canadian jurisdiction, the courts, have a basis for saying, look, yes, you spoke in Kenya, and you may have instructed or hired these people in Kenya, but the effect of your action was felt right here.
Oh, okay, and we need to take a short break, and when we come back, I'll ask you whether you think that the current administration owes you an apology, as some people say, apart from the check that you're waiting for. But still ahead, we discuss politics with Miguna. Is he going to be a Kenya Kwanza ally or critic? All right, welcome back. We are talking to Dr. Miguna, just fresh from Canada, back into the country. And this is his first television interview, and we are talking to him about his experience out there and the cases that he has enumerated, so many of them. Dr. Miguna, how do you take the fact that some people in the current administration were actually part of the other one that mistreated you in the manner that you have described so eloquently? How do you relate with that fact?
I don't actually understand your question, but let me try to answer it the best way I can. So there was a president. Okay, however illegitimate he was.
And a deputy president and a cabinet.
No. Go slow. Let me finish my statement. There was a president called Uhuru Kenyatta. All right? He happened to be the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, not his deputy. All right? He happened to be the head of the executive arm of government. He happened to be the only one who actually signed the appointments of all the cabinet ministers and the principal secretaries, not his deputy. It was called the Uhuru Kenyatta administration. Every administration is named after the president, titular or not. When Jomo Kenyatta assassinated Tom Mboya, all right, and he did. Kenyans did not blame his deputy, okay? They didn't say Jaramogi Oginga Odinga and Jomo Kenyatta. When Jomo Kenyatta did all manner of things, he did a lot of things, they never blamed his deputies. When Moi...
But you have blamed... You have blamed someone like Raila Odinga who was not in
Just wait, because I can explain that. Just wait.
Yeah.
So...
I'm just trying to make sure we save time, Dr. Miguna.
No, but you are trying to hurry me so that I don't explain this. Let me explain this so that Kenyans understand this. When there was one-party rule in this country, and many of us went to detention and forced into exile, many people said Daniel Arap Moi regime, the Kanu regime. They did not say Saitoti regime. They did not say Karanja regime. These were vice presidents. Now, then there were ministers like Charles Njonjo or attorney generals who did specific things and that people have attacked them for. For example, if there is a court order directing that the attorney general do this or minister this, do this, and they are specifically named in the court order, but then they don't do it. We then say the minister did not do it, and then we blame the person who appointed them. Now, you brought the question of Ruto, and I want to distinguish why, to me, Raila was more involved than Ruto. In 2017, if you recall, I campaigned as an independent candidate for Nairobi. I did not support the Jubilee candidate. I did not support the ODM candidate. The Jubilee candidate was Sonko. The ODM candidate was Kidero. I campaigned against them, which means I neither supported Raila or Uhuru at that level, all right? When the elections happened, all right, I believe, based on the data that was available, that Raila won the election, even though I did not support him, even though I had fallen out with Raila Odinga, even though I did not like him. In fact, I hated him. But when I believed that he had won an election and the election had been stolen, I said, wait a minute. The fact that I endorsed Uhuru Kenyatta for this presidency and voted for him does not give him permission to steal somebody else's election. Because for me, the rule of law is cardinal. The principle of constitutionalism and democracy are the only things I adhere to. So I said, on this one, Uhuru is wrong. I am going to oppose you. I'm going to support the rightful winner, even though I don't like him. So for me, I was standing on principle.
Did you like Uhuru Kenyatta at the time?
I didn't like him.
Why did you vote for
him? But I liked him better than Raila. No. There's a distinction. There are a lot of people who voted.
There's no requirement that you have to vote for somebody, Dr. Miguna. If you don't like somebody, both of them...
There is no requirement that I don't have to vote for them.
I mean, if you don't like both of them, you can leave both of them
No, but
out.
listen to me. That's you.
Yeah.
This is Miguna. Miguna can decide that Ageo is running for office and Joe Blow is running for office, and I vote for Ageo.
I know you can decide.
And I can decide, and it is my right.
What's your decision?
No, but just listen.
Yeah.
It's my right, and that right is not subject to debate.
No, it is.
You know, when people go... No, it is not.
The choice is, because you're discussing it publicly.
Let me tell you, when I go to vote in that booth, and it is a private booth, and I cast my ballot, and it's a secret ballot, nobody has a right to question me how I voted. You're not allowed. You have no right. You have a right to vote freely. I have a right to vote freely.
Until you tell us who you voted for.
No. Even if I tell you whom I voted for, it's my right to choose even Satan if he's on the ballot.
That is fine.
So if you tell me I should not have chosen Satan because you chose Undeto, I have to tell you Undeto is your candidate, Satan is mine. So the point is this: we have equal rights. I exercise my rights. When I believe that the person I voted for violated what is cardinal, which is higher than my individual choice, which is subversion of the Constitution, I opposed him. The point is this, and get this very clearly. The moment I opposed him and worked with Raila Odinga, not for Raila Odinga, to resist Uhuru Kenyatta's undemocratic actions, because he was the beneficiary of those actions, we formed the National Resistance Movement. We had a program of action, and I was the titular head of that formation. Raila was part of that formation. Raila went behind my back in October 2017. I didn't know it then. I learned it later after I'd been abducted and forced into exile. Took money from Uhuru Kenyatta, betrayed me. No, you asked me a question.
But that you can't prove, surely. You can't come here and say
you can go and ask Raila that. You know, you've never asked Raila that question.
Yeah, but you are saying it on my show, and you can't prove it.
No, but Ageo, have you ever asked Raila that question? I have made that, no. I've written a book where I've given data and records and facts.
But when you come and say someone received money, surely you have to give evidence in this show.
No. What evidence do you want?
Money is transacted. Is it a bank account? Is it M-Pesa?
It was cash.
What was
so it? What evidence do you want?
So it would just be your word against
No, it is not. Because if Raila Odinga denies, I can tell him where he was given the money. You see, you can bring us together. No. I would invite you.
That I can do. And until I do that.
Please do.
Until I do that, respectfully,
no.
I don't think it's fair for you
you ask the question.
I don't think it's fair. I didn't ask about money.
No.
I didn't ask about money.
But when you ask the question, you cannot dictate how I'm going to answer the question because I did not construct the question.
No. What
I'm going to answer your question. You asked me the question, why did I oppose Raila Odinga? Why do I say that Raila Odinga collaborated, conspired with Uhuru Kenyatta in order to have me violated, my rights violated, and for them to forcefully remove me from the country? Let me explain, all right? When I led the national resistance movement, the reaction from Kenyans was very positive. When it came to the point when Raila was going to be sworn in, everybody around Raila, Orengo, Otiende Amolo, all the lawyers around Raila, refused to swear him in. He has said it himself. Raila looked for me and said I should swear him in. And you guys know, because you are in the coast, when the first swearing in was supposed to take place, and Raila paid for my airfare, called me suddenly, and told me to travel to the coast to go swear him in Kilifi. They were having a People's Assembly ceremony there. And when I reached Mombasa, they stopped me from reaching where Raila was. And I was detained on the road for 6 hours. You guys refused to cover it. But I was there. People saw me. You guys took photos, but you never covered it. So that swearing in did not take place. The people of Kenya, majority of whom had voted for Raila, majority of whom had voted against Uhuru Kenyatta, supported me because they saw me as the person taking this impunity head on. Raila felt threatened, felt insecure, and he felt the ground was shifting in my direction. And he then felt that he's going to conspire with Uhuru Kenyatta so that I could be stopped. That was the reason. Let me give you the last answer. Let me give you, because you asked the question, so I have to give you the answer.
Yes, of course. But
so let me give you the last answer.
We don't have the entire hour to answer one
I'm
question.
going to give you the last answer. You see, you are hurrying me.
Please finish.
If you are interviewing Raila Odinga, you would have given him, you would have treated him like a king and not interrupted him.
You're not sure for that.
No, I know that. I've seen you act like a lamb in the presence of Raila Odinga. So anyway, let me finish. No, but you see, when you bring yourself to the forum.
The last point, please.
The last point.
Yeah, please make it.
The night that it was about 5:30, whatever, that I was abducted, Raila and Jimmy Wanjigi were supposed to come to my house. They know why, all right? There were things they were supposed to deliver for a specific project. You understand? And that's when my house was bombed. When my house was bombed and I was kidnapped and tortured and